Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Layer by Layer, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to be talking about the Prusa Core 1, the Canadian post workers strike, AI-generated 3D models by us and other folks, the release of Teleport, and a whole bunch of other stuff, also finalizing with how often we screw up at everything all the time. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by Tangled, tangledfilament.com. Tangled is our attempt to reduce the cost of filament down to $10 per spool. As of 1 week ago, we have gotten down to $11 per kilogram. There are conditions around that. And if you want to buy, you can buy it a 3 kg spool for $33, or you can buy a single kg spool for $13. In back patches of 3. So check out tangledfilament.com. Yes, we've just done a release of Tangled. We didn't think we were going to, but we got it out here before the Christmas season was over. But yes, $11 per kilogram on a 3 kg spool and $13 per kilogram on 1 kg spools. We'll talk about this more a little bit later in the show, but 1 kg spools are more expensive to make. But we've got a bullseye. We've got a bullseye on the $10, guys. We're right there. All right. News. Here we go. Formnext going on this week as we speak right now. Everybody over there in Germany doing all kinds of stuff. So let's go ahead and talk about the Prusa Core 1, which is the printer release that everybody's kind of talking about. Prusa, by the way, from a marketing standpoint, Prusa released the press release for the Core 1 the week before Formnext, and then they're going to get a bunch of press coverage during Formnext, and then they get to carry it in the next week. Good for them. And look at us here talking about it. But they have released the Core 1, which you can purchase an upgrade kit to the MK4S in order to build the Core 1. That's good of Prusa. I would be fascinated to know how many people actually do that. The Core 1 is fairly expensive. I believe it's $1,100. No, it's $11.99 USD. But you have a conversion kit to convert the MK4S. And it is a Core XY machine with a temperature-controlled heat chamber, and it's high speed and all the things. So most people are calling this a bamboo clone. That's a little bit unfair, because I would say that the build quality of the Prusa machine looks to be a lot better than the bamboo machine. I like bamboo machines. I appreciate bamboo machines in a lot of different ways, but I don't think they are as manufactured as well as some other options out there. But anyhow, I will say to the Prusa thing while I am talking about it, I do not understand how having the chamber temperature controlled, as in held at a very particular temperature rather than just making it as warm as you possibly can, I don't know what value that is. And to be fair, I don't have a ton of experience with fully enclosed printing. I don't know if you need to hold it at a as a sustained lower temperature close to room temperature or something like that. Like, oh, we only want it to be 80 C inside of there rather than 100 C. I don't know where that would create bad performance of the parts. But as far as some specs here, it is 250 by 220 by 270 build volume. It's a 32-bit X-Buddy mainboard, direct drive extruder with 10-to-1 planetary gear system, temperature up to 290, heat bed up to 120, chamber up to 55 C. Chamber up to 55 C, 131 F. It's a really hot Arizona day inside of there. I know that's better than room temperature at 70 degrees, but I don't know why they would want to cool that down. Anyhow, connectivity, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi, people have called out the fact that this one can actually be offline and be upgraded without needing to connect to a server. So it's valuable in that way. The kit, using a conversion kit, will be available in March 2025. And the Core 1 they haven't said where the actual one comes out here. Showcasing Core 1, okay, yes. MK4S owners will be available in March 2025, allowing users to transform their printers into Core 1 models, which means that the actual machine itself, the actual machine itself is shipping in January 2025, and then the upgrade kits are coming in March. So yeah, there's that. $1,200 Core XY machine from Prusa. Oh, Prusa, it is only one linear rail and then two just linear circular bearings on either side of it, which is why it's the MK4S upgrades it. The MK4S basically lays down flat, and then you put in all the stuff. That makes sense. Okay, so that's that. Next piece of news, text to 3D from HP. So HP over at Formnext has been previewing their text to 3D model generator. The way their generator works is that they start with an image. You say, that's the image that I want to start with. And then you say, generate a 3D model from that image. And then they take that image, start to kind of reverse engineer the shadows and the depth from the image to create a 3D model. And then they start making more images around it, AI-generated images, until they find pairs that can fit in with the core 3D model until they finally build out the full thing. It's a weird sort of kind of generative photogrammetry, effectively, which is a bad way of putting it, but it is what a lot of these AI tools have been using to generate these meshes. Whether it's good or bad is unclear, but it is certain that there are far more photos of 3D objects than there are actually models of 3D objects. So if you want to create a model generator, this is the way to do it right now because there's actually data available. It is called 3D Foundry. The demonstrations seem to be pretty decent. And yes, it was a demonstration software at the time. It was interesting. The gentleman there mentioned that the generation costs for HP, usually about 75 cents per 3D model, which makes sense because they're probably generating who knows how many images in order to do it. And DALL-E is expensive as it is right now. Which just does images, not the 3D models behind it. Though again, the generation of the 3D model is probably less computationally intensive than the generation of the photo for the 3D model. Because the inversion of that image into a 3D model is a clear computational problem, whereas the neural nets of the AI system that generate the 3D model are far less efficient. But more universal. Anyhow, so they want to create plans for a downloadable local version of the software and one for use with HP AI laptops. They don't know when that will be available, and it won't be available for a while because right now I don't know of a laptop that even runs locally any sort of AI. I'm not even sure Apple Intelligence is running locally on laptops yet for reals. But cost them 75 cents for each generation of a 3D model, so their service will not be free. The model themselves, once the model has been generated, you can theoretically take it from anywhere from a 3D printing service or download it as an MJF file to be made on HP MJF machines. When they say send it to a 3D printing service, I'm not sure if that means that you get an STL to be forwarded or if a 3D printing service has to integrate with Foundry. That's unclear. So it's not clear how useful these 3D models become. That all being said, it is impressive. It is useful. And they have a roadmap for it, but they're most definitely market testing this at Formnext. One of the final kind of quotes coming from this article, this is per All3DP. In its current organic focused form, 3D Foundry is pretty well ready to use as evidenced by its interactive showing at Formnext. Okay, yes. If all goes well, Foundry will be a growing application. Kaiser, the lead of the project, has 3 years of plans for his team. It just depends how much funding they will have after launch. They have to see if people are going to use this to see if HP is going to dump money into servers after this. HP most certainly can afford servers, and they know how to build server farms and can call up NVIDIA and get some chips too. But the one thing that they talked about is that this version of it, since it's using just photos, it's mainly for organic shapes. And this is the problem with most 3D models right now. And our next story is also about this. But most of these image to model, text to image to model models is the fact that they're very goopy. They're very much kind of like sculpted clay in order to create these models. There's no precision in them. You can't actually make a perfectly square cube. You will get a cube, but it'll be kind of iffy because it's tacked together like a Frankenstein of photos and inverse photogrammetry. But not inverse photogrammetry. But so organic shapes are good because you can't tell that the fur of the fox is out of whack because it's meant to be that way. But in order to do precision designs, which they're calling programmatic designs, so like a precision engineered part where I need a hole this diameter that's perfectly circular in the middle of this thing, they are creating little foundation models and core pieces that are then grown on top of effectively. So the examples they use are keycaps, where the base of the keycap that has to interface with the precision of a keyboard is set and rigid, and then the AI thing grows on top of that. Or phone cases that you can then embed a pattern onto. These are the examples of the types of things they're looking at. It's very exciting because that's a very solvable problem, and somebody's going to do it. There's the AI 3D models. We've probably got about another 6 to 12 months before people start seeing them really break loose, because everybody's kind of figuring out how to do it and also finding the market for it. Coming in for that, next piece of news: Slant 3D has partnered with SuperCraft AI. So SuperCraft is a YC graduate company that reached out to us for integrating with our API. SuperCraft is an AI 3D model generator. Originally started out to do ideation of models and kind of industrial design concept exploration. What they have done is effectively implemented this type of photogrammetry aspect into it, to where those images can then be generated. Well, actually, I don't know how they do it. I'm presuming that they're using this photogrammetry method because a lot of folks do. But they have been able to do it with a number of different objects, and they've actually run through the API. So if you want to try out a free 3D model generator, go to SuperCraft.ai. And inside of that, now deployed, should be the purchase of 3D model. And that model will come through us. So if you're a developer who wants to see it in action, or if you want to just mess around with 3D models and then have that 3D model created and shipped to you, that's all functional and available now. So yeah, enjoy, check it out. It's pretty darn sick. The model generation is very good. Now, here's the challenge with printing all of these models. Before I was talking about how the models are sort of goopy. You don't really have a perfectly flat surface anywhere on most AI-generated 3D models. You effectively have to crop some part of the part in order to do that. It is challenging because you have to crop it somewhere in the part, but you can't know which side to be cropped necessarily. And since it's AI generated stuff, people can generate anything. So there's a big danger of garbage in and garbage out, because they'll generate like a fox doing a ballerina dance. And that's not a very FDM printable design. Though inversely, if you try to create like a square design, like an organizer, since it's kind of goopy, it doesn't really have a flat surface. Now we're fixing this on our side. When we were working with SuperCraft, we basically put in a system by which clear shapes can be modified by the system and printed out reliably so that they don't all have to be manually readjusted. So that is there, but it is a problem with AI generated models. And this is the problem that we've been addressing with our internal AI dev project. We're more focused on the actual CAD side of it though, than necessarily full 3D model generation. But that will be a conversation for another time. Okay. SuperCraft. Yes, SuperCraft is there on the API. Now, the Canadian strike. The reason I bring this up, if you're not aware, the postal workers in Canada went on strike a week or two ago. It has caused a lot of problems for Canadian 3D printing businesses because they effectively can't ship very well or very affordably anywhere. So I wanted to bring this up because number one, resources that you can use, if you use private shipping like UPS and that kind of thing, I think those get around it. So that is an option, but it is more expensive than the postal service. The other option, and not to toot our own horn, we have the teleport app out. So if you are a Canadian business operator who are trying to get stuff distributed in the United States, and you have an Etsy store, or well, if you have any e-commerce store, you can sign up for our teleport app and we can print and ship your orders to your customers for you. All you have to do is upload the 3D models, match them to a color, and then the orders will automatically import from your e-commerce store. That is all available right now. So if you are having trouble with the Canadian strike and you need to get parts out because next week is Black Friday, the prime time to not have a postal strike, slowing down your business, connect with us as quick as you can, and we'll try to get you onboarded as quick as we can to make sure that it's as seamless as possible. We do onboard everybody to the Teleport app because we want to make sure everybody has a good experience and is familiarized with all the capabilities of it. Otherwise, it can just be kind of So yeah, sign up for the Teleport app over at slantpod.com, slantpod.com, and we can get you onboarded and hopefully give you the full Christmas without having you extend lead times or wait for the strike to be over or who knows what all. You need your Christmas season. So yeah, reach out to us or connect up to one of the apps. That is the thing to do. Okay, so Tangled filament release. So this is, earlier this week we released a batch of Tangled filament, which we didn't think we were doing at all this Christmas. We thought we were done until January, but we had a window, so we dove at it and went. We were also able to do a test. We were able to drop some filament down to $11 per kilogram, and based on the response, that is sustainable. So we are probably going to stay at $11 per kilogram for a little bit here. The economics are really, really tight on this. So we think that it will be able to stay. It's for a 3 kg spool. The reason for the 3 kg spool is that you can we reduce the labor substantially because it's one spool's worth of effort, but it's 3 kilograms worth of material. So it's much better than the 1 kg spools. The 1 kg spools are $13 per kilogram right now, which puts us in market of cheap filaments, but not really but it's because each single 1 kg spool is a single batch of effort around it, of packaging and boxing and spooling it up and all the rest of it. The 3 kg spool is basically 1 spool plus 2 spoolless spools that we didn't even have to spool. So it's very efficient. That gets us on the road to the $10. We now have to spend the next couple months or so verifying some stuff on our side around supply to squeeze out that extra $1. And we have the bead on that, so we're going to keep on pushing. The thing with this, what we're going to do in addition to this is a workflow change. And basically batch releases. There are 2 things we're going to do to make filament Tangled sustainable, more sustainable, because break even is not sustainable. We are introducing more upsells onto the Tangled website. So things like desiccate packs. We'll have tools and gadgets and widgets and that kind of stuff over there. Vacuum seal bags, those kind of things that should all helpfully improve your experience with filament in general. But give us something to retail kind of at higher margins so that you get the filament. So bluntly, the filament on Tangled kind of becomes like the milk in the back of a supermarket. And as you're coming out, you go in, I'm going to get my milk, I'm going to get my cheap filament. And as you come out, you're like, oh, Oreos, that goes good with milk. That's effectively what we're going for. So that you can get cheap filament if that's what you're going for, but you also have a means by which to, we have a means by which to get more money out of the situation so that we can keep the project sustainable. Because again, break even is not sustainable. The other thing that we will do is we will change workflow a little bit. We might just release batches. So we just released this batch here this time around. We will release another batch in either late December or early January. And then we will do one more batch for 3 total tests in late January, early February. If both of those subsequent batches perform as we expect, then we will have the pricing locked in and we may be able to lock in $10 filament as early as late February. Maybe. But those batches have to do really well. And that sounds salesy, like, oh, hey, you got to buy our filament so that we can decrease the cost of filament. Well, yeah, you do. And it's $11 filament. It's stupidly cheap anyhow. And it's made in the States. And it's pretty darn decent and all the rest of the things. But, so yes, please do support those batches if you really mean to. Because since we're doing it as a test, we want good data. So don't lie to us. Don't buy it in order to support the project necessarily. Make sure you need the filament. Otherwise, we do those batches and then we ramp all up. And then like the next time around, it goes to 0. We can't do that. Otherwise, that could kill the project too. But this is also why we're doing it 3 times, because we don't think all of you are going to buy filament each time. But that is the roadmap and the plan for Tangled. Later next year, we will also have spoolless, next year we will have spoolless, and we'll keep on pushing. But right now, it looks like the 3 kg spool will get to $10 per kilogram first. That is the goal. Okay. We've covered a lot of stuff. Teleport, the Teleport release. Yes, Teleport. If any of you guys didn't know about this already, Teleport is our new app that replaces all of Etsy and Shopify and everything else. You can run everything through Teleport. You can run your Etsy store and your Shopify store and your eBay and your Amazon and your TikTok shop. All your e-commerce sites all connect to one single Teleport dashboard, and you can send all of your orders straight to us so that we can print and ship them to customers for you. So you don't have to worry about doing it. That is live. It is available right now for sign up. It is really sick. Like this, we've been building apps now for 2 years, and we are now quite good at it. And Teleport is quite good. It's very clean. It's very seamless. And we're like always, we're continuing to iterate on it. So it's refining and smoothing out all the time as soon as we figure out kind of what the workflows are for certain things and getting feedback from them. Roadmap for Teleport is right now we have what seems to be all the colors that folks need to get done what they need to get done. We'll introduce a couple more colors here in the future. But aside from that, we will be introducing photography, and we will be introducing third-party components. These are the two things that everyone has been requesting and we've been working to get into. But the main thing is making sure that we're making good 3D printed parts. So we focus there first. But the next things will be third-party components in photography. The photography, it will be the first thing to kind of come out. Basically, there will be a button inside of there, which instead of order prototypes, it will be order photos. And I don't know what pricing will be on it right now, but you will be able to click that button and we will print the item. We will run it through our photo studio, which has been doing e-commerce photography for 4 years. Our photo studio, and you will have good quality photos delivered to you that you can then put onto your Etsy store and other channels. And you also get to use those photos to evaluate the print quality from us, because you can. So that'll be a much better process if you're an international store, especially because now you don't have to pay for international shipping to get a demo part from us, which will be really great for folks. The other thing to do would be, and then third-party components will be coming out. Third-party components will be things like lamps, magnet, some sorts of screws, that kind of stuff. They will effectively be a kit at first. I'm not sure we will include assembly on that until we have workflows in and we know what everybody's doing with it, and then we can start to build on that itself too. But those are kind of the releases of Teleport. So if you are running any sort of 3D printing e-commerce store, check out Teleport because it's really freaking sick. And since this is great for us too because it creates a single point of focus to where we can put all of our capabilities into that one single app rather than maintaining Etsy, maintaining Shopify, so on and so forth. Teleport covers every platform. So we have actually stopped new signups inside the United States for the Etsy plugin. You will have to use Teleport if you want to use any of our stuff. So yeah, there's that. Check out Teleport. Teleport is the culmination of several years of work. We're really excited about it. Okay, now, this is topical. The discussion topic for the day. We screw up all the time. That's a bad way of doing it. If I was being political about that, I would say we fail all the time. But no, this was a discussion that we kind of had internally here around, obviously with like Teleport and that kind of stuff, we see a lot of e-commerce businesses, a lot of businesses come through us, a lot of entrepreneurs come through us. And we were discussing like, why is there such a high attrition rate on so many of these guys? Like, what can we tell them that will actionably make them more successful? And the answer is fail more. And people hate that because that's risky and expensive. And failure is risky and expensive. But this is what I mean. If you're a 3D printing business and you have fewer than 10 products, you are missing a gigantic opportunity. For the very first time in human history, you can create 50 variations of a physical product and have no cost to do that. None at all. That is incredible. So create 50 variations of the product, list them all, and A/B test them. If I build a website, once it's rolling, we will test 50 different variations of the color blue to find out what people click on. This is a famous story from Google. We've done it too, but I'm using Google. But they changed the hues of the blue to find out what has the highest click-through rate. And they could do that because it cost $0 to change the color of the website. You can now do that with this kind of stuff. So do it. Try 100 times at creating a product and find the one that works, because you are going to fail 99 times. If you only try once, you are very likely going to fail. If you try 100 times, you have a pretty good probability of success, or at least getting smarter from it. So that's the piece of advice. The reason I say this in our context is that we screw up all the time. I would say that if I was being honest, we probably ship product too quickly sometimes, to where it's early. It's too early. I'm a huge believer in the minimum viable product, and that's a whole different conversation. But sometimes minimum viable product has you ship somewhat incomplete because you get overzealous with MVP in a way that you shouldn't. But to get this externalized from us, I'm going to use the iPhone. The first iPhone was garbage. It dropped calls. It didn't have an app store. And you were stuck in with AT&T, I think, when you first started. You couldn't use Verizon. So terrible product. But it worked and it got started. But you have to get out there and find out as fast as you can, as cheaply as possible. Because the alternative is to sit inside of your dark room and really think really hard about what your product is and how good it is and optimize it, and then release it and then find out nobody likes it. And then you say, oh, I failed, and it's super painful because we're super invested and it hurts. And then you never do it again. The cost of failure is really low right now. So fail a bunch. Here's the thing. There are 8 billion people on the planet. If you make some people angry the first time around, there are more people around who will be able to use it, especially if you're starting from zero. If you're Apple and you have 8 billion users, you better not screw up the next iPhone in a major way. The friction changes that way. But when you're a startup, your job is to find out the truth as quickly as possible. And that means finding the untruths as quickly as possible. Do people really want more color? For us, do people really want more colors? Or do they actually want third-party components? How can we test third-party components in a very minimal way so that we don't spend a year building that out and then find out nobody actually wants it? Well, let's build this duct taped version. A bunch of people are going to get mad at us and we're going to fail. And we might screw up. Well, at least we'll know if people cared about it. And that's important. Then you fix it as fast as you can so that you don't get a reputation of just having garbage. One thing I'm very happy about and very proud of our team about is that a lot of the stuff that we release is embarrassing when we release it. But if you look at a lot of the things that we have right now, it's really quite good. The first version of the Etsy app was atrocious. It was atrocious compared to what Teleport is. It is night and day. But many of you have no idea what the first Etsy plugin was like because you weren't there. We were too small. It was too early in it. But now we have hundreds of users using these plugins and running their businesses on it. And that's what counts. So yes, we screw up all the time. We have a video on this channel called Projects We Killed. Any project we kill is effectively a screw up, something we did wrong. You can see this on our YouTube channel. If you want to see something really cool, go to our YouTube channel, go to videos, order it by date, and then just scroll through thumbnails. You will see the evolution of the thumbnails on the channel. Like you'll see random, like a bunch of yellow bricks that you can't see anything in, to really corporate, to face saying, hey, this in the side of there, to what we have right now, which are super, super tight. So we screw up all the time because that is how you learn and how you get better. Yes, everybody calls this fail fast and fail often. That's true. But failure isn't quite right because it's not failure. It's a screw up. It's a mea culpa. It's a learning experience. And failure seems like, well, a failure, but it's not. The Etsy app was atrocious and we screwed up at the beginning, but we didn't fail. It exists now. So we got smarter faster through screwing up. So not to be messing with words there, but I think there is a fine distinction with that because many people are scared of failure, but you shouldn't be scared of learning or of even screwing up. Everybody screws up. I was late for coffee the other day. Life will go on. You don't do it all the time. You don't make it a habit. And you want to be right more often than you're wrong. But you have the ability to screw up a lot right now. And you need to in order to find out what's right. Because your great big grand view of the world will be incorrect. So do that. And again, circling that all the way back to how you guys can take that and run with it. 3D printing lets you create 50 different variations of a product, a physical product. Historically, if you wanted to do that, you would have had to cut 50 different molds. If the molds were $1,000, you're paying $50,000 to do 50 tests and find out that 49 of them would be no good. You can run all those tests yourself right now. Design a handle for a John Deere tractor, then do it for Ford, and then do it for whatever it was. Design some gadget for the kitchen. Do this other thing. Draw some flowers for your sister. Make a pot for your brother. Whatever it happens to be. Some spare parts over there. Some tool mounts over here. Try it all. And then remon it. Because the only thing stopping people from being successful by making 3D printed products is the work to make the 3D printed products and the fear of launching them out there. A bunch of them will not sell. I'm sorry, but that's okay because you only need one to be really successful. And if you think I'm wrong about this, not only have we demonstrated this with our YouTube, with our software development, with the existence of the company as a whole, and many people don't see all the experimentation internally, but we have also run e-commerce stores selling freaking knobs and controller stands and that kind of stuff too, that are 1 in 1,000 performing stores on places like Etsy. Because what we did was we found an item, we found a concept, we tried 100 versions of it, and then the one that worked, we harped in on that and created 100 versions of that one and continued to expand because it costs nothing to create another variation. So go do that stuff, guys. All right, hopefully that's useful to you all. Good batch of news and discussion this week, both around AI and all the rest of it. Again, if you're in Canada and you need help fulfilling your Christmas 3D printing orders, reach out to us. We can get you on the Teleport app and we'll try to get you fixed up so that you don't lose the season. And after this podcast, we will have the live stream here on the channel coming up, which is just questions with Gabe. So you guys can talk to me about topics that we had here inside the podcast or whatever the heck is going on. So we're changing up the format. Rather than doing podcast in the live stream, we're going to do just straight up Q&A inside the live stream, and you guys just get to chat with me. So sounds good. Have a great day, everybody.